Oh my God, that dude was unbelievable. Commanding that platform is the most important thing, and you can't fake it.
It's like being at the movies.
Yeah.
You don't want to miss it. So
That's
therefore,
right.
you're going to hold it.
We get meeting planners will say, "Oh my God, I've never seen my people give a standing ovation. I've never seen my people. Nobody was on their phone. I've never seen my people. Not one person got up to go to the bathroom." Well, good.
Hey, welcome back to another session where we're talking about how to build a speaking business, how to become a platform speaker. Because we get these calls seriously every day. Someone calls us and asks, "How did you all do this? What can they do? How can they launch?" So we thought, let's make it an easy breezy teaching series on how you can become a platform speaker and get paid to speak. And I love that. Remember, we did that first training called Who Said Talk is Cheap?
Yes.
Talk about that. What were you thinking when you came up with that? Because that was a great title. I thought it was cool and a nice play on words.
Well, the cool thing about the speaking industry is very unique because public speaking is right up there with one of the largest fears that people experience. Some people think that they'd rather fly on an airplane or jump out of an airplane versus speaking publicly in front of an audience. And it's not uncommon for people to grab me and say, "Oh my God, how do you do that? Like, how do you do that with 2,000 people looking at you?" Or I once did 25,000,
I
right?
was going to ask you that. What was your largest crowd and how did you manage that?
25,000. And that
Where were
was,
you?
we were in Dallas at the AT&T Stadium where the
Mm.
Cowboys play. And it was awkward because it was so big that there was a 2 second delay that when I spoke, the audience couldn't hear me until about a second or two later, which was awkward because it was almost like I was working with a translator. We've done that with international events. And when you have a translator translating your words, you have to have a little bit of a cadence, a little bit of a rhythm with the translator. And so I found that to be the case in front of 25,000 people. So I had to crack a joke with confidence and
Mm.
have that pause to make sure that the audience had time to laugh. And so it got in my head a little bit, which was awesome. But we've done 16,000 before, but 25,000 had that second or two delay. But I love it. I've always been a performer, and I've taught people that if you want to be a great speaker, you have to be a performer. I mean, you have to be wired to be able to get in front of 1,000 people, 2,000 people, 40 people, and literally light up and come alive. And so for me, I love it. No crowd is too big, but it's really a part education and part performance. Some
Mm.
people dub it edutainment.
I
But
like that.
my big take-home lesson for any presenter who really wants to grow their business, what I learned right away, and our attitude coming out the gate was, I need to be very entertaining and dynamic, and I must give my audience great information. That was the formula. We believe that we could be very entertaining and dynamic and give our audience great information. We can have a superstar career. And it's really that simple.
Mm.
My problem was when I came out, I had never had a job, right? So I was very entertaining and dynamic from the beginning, but I had no content. And so we had
Mm-hmm.
work to do.
Right.
We kept the entertainment high. We made sure people had a good time while I developed content. So
Mm-hmm.
eventually, once the entertainment quality kind of met the content quality, that's when we really, really took off. And now I'm almost so content heavy now that I got to get back to the entertainment because people want to be entertained as well. So there's a nice formula. It's almost like cooking the perfect gumbo. You have to have the right combination of entertainment, humor, performance, if you will, mixed in with some really good content. And when you can perfect that, it's almost like playing golf. That's the perfect golf score. When you have the perfect amount of entertainment and the perfect amount of content, that's when you just had a great day on that stage.
Okay, so today, let's really hone in and talk about mastering the stage. I want to talk about mastering the stage. And that's why I wanted to know your biggest crowd, 25,000. How do you master the stage when it's maybe 10 people? Let's start off by talking about mastering the stage and what happens from a small crowd to a big crowd to a ginormous crowd. Talk us through how do you master the stage?
Or even time of day. A lot of people don't consider time of day. So when you want to command the stage, you need to consider the audience, right? So if it's a big audience and they have the big jumbotrons on each side, I'm big. A lot of nonverbals, a lot of facial expressions, it's a show, right? The smaller you get, you look a little silly. being up there extra dramatic, and there's only 10 people. So typically, I try to turn on the performance quality based on the size of the audience. Larger the audience, the more I perform. The smaller the audience, the more it's like I'm an instructor or a teacher really having a conversation with 10 people. In fact, if it gets really small, I love to do interactive. We did something for NetJets. I think it was 13 people, but they were in charge like for a couple of $1 billion in private jet sales. And there was only 13 people, but it was 13 powerful people, right? So you almost want that to be interactive, where you're asking questions, they get to talk back, you're having a dialogue, a conversation. So it really depends on the size of the audience. I encourage any young speaker to just speak long enough and you get a chance to get in front of 200 people, which might be large for you. Heck, we didn't start out with some 25,000
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
We started out in high schools and middle schools and Rotary clubs and churches. And I remember going to the Salvation Army and drug rehabs and halfway houses. We went anywhere, literally, and spoke to anybody. And then it evolved and grew to 1,000 people, 2,000 people, 16,000 people, 25,000 people. But you learn just from doing. And I tell all my speakers, always get game film. Every time you speak, get some game film. They look at me like, wow, why? You got to watch game film because you can coach yourself. You shouldn't need me to coach you all the time. A lot of these things you can correct yourself. I remember watching myself on video early on. It was painful. I was like, oh my God, my shirt tail is out. Like, oh my God, why am I sweating so much? I keep saying the word and I'm pacing too much. And you begin to just watch yourself with a critical eye, and you can grow tremendously. As a ball player, we watch game film. Right. So I learned how to dissect game film in sports. Why wouldn't I watch myself as a speaker? And we also watched other speakers. We would study other speakers. And sometimes it would be like, wait a minute, he's okay, but he charges how much? And sometimes it gave you confidence. It was like, well, if this guy can charge this, we ought to raise our fee. And sometimes it was like, oh my God, that dude was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I remember the first time we watched our mentor, Desi Williamson. I'll never forget that. We watched this
I
video.
remember that.
We were on our way to church, and he was so mesmerizing. We couldn't cut it off. And when he got done, we were in tears. And it was on video.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I couldn't imagine being in that ballroom that day. And that was the first time, and he's our mentor. That's the first time I had heard him speak on a video. And I was like, dude, you're like my big brother. I want to be you when I grow up. And we eventually grew up. We eventually learned how to tell our stories. You got amazing in the office, booking and running that. But commanding that platform is the most important thing. And you can't fake it. You have to have stage presence. Not only being a storyteller, you have to be able to keep all eyes on you, which means you have to use your hands, your nonverbal. I'm a communications major. Communication is more than just you talking. It's your tone, your volume, your pace, your inflection, not being monotone, and so the way you keep someone's attention for 60 minutes, there's strategies. And if you don't know the strategies, they're going to go to sleep. They are going to go to sleep. One of the biggest compliments we get, meeting planners will say, oh my God, I've never seen my people give a standing ovation. I've never seen my people, nobody was on their phone. I've never seen my people, not one person got up to go to the bathroom. Well, good. You know what, I've been doing this a long time. They shouldn't, right? I've had people come to me and say, oh my God, I had to use the bathroom so bad, but I couldn't go because I didn't want to miss a word, right?
Right.
So
But
that all
comes
came through
back to
development.
but then think that comes back to the storytelling that we were talking about before, because when you think about that movement in a room, if it's an amazing story that you won't, well, it's like being at the movies.
Yeah.
You don't want to miss it. So therefore,
right.
you're going to hold it.
That's
And then
right.
honestly, so for all the people out there speaking, if you speak now and you notice people are always getting up, moving around, they're
That's a
actually sending you
red
a
flag.
they're
Yes,
really sending you a
yes,
message.
Yes, you're not
Because there's
engaging.
message and there's clues all around
Yes.
us. And it's like, just get back in the laboratory.
Yes.
And probably in this industry, I'm gonna go back to, because we're talking about stage presence. You got to really stay in the laboratory.
Right.
I think it's just no different than, think about with restaurants. We watch, some of our most favorite fast food restaurants. They're always doing a theme special of the month. You'll always notice
LTO.
there's, what do you call them?
LTO,
An LTO.
limited time offer.
So there's always an LTO. Well, your business in the speaking industry needs some LTOs. You need to keep it saucy. You need to keep it fresh. Keep elements of surprise. Keep it changing, because even I think about, when we get calls in our office, people will say like, does Walter have anything new? And if I can't say he has something new, they're like, well, we're going to go somewhere else, to be honest. So they are looking for new stuff. Or then we'll get that call that say, I want the old stuff. And so I think we got to make sure that there's enough stories or content in your repertoire. You need a repertoire so that you can really build a business that has options. They're always doing a theme special of the month. You'll always notice
LTO.
there's, what do you call them?
LTO.
An LTO.
Limited time offer.
So there's always an LTO.
No one can stop you but you. That was our foundation. Then we launched All But Stink. And before you know it, we started coming into other topics and other books. Comedians make money. They don't share any content, but they entertain people. So you can be a professional speaker and not even have that much content and still do a good job because people love performing.